Hello and welcome back to Bearded Ambition. As always, appreciate your viewership. Have to say that from the top of the video. Definitely appreciate you for checking in and viewing the content. As always, please like, share, and subscribe and hit the notification bell so that when I do upload these videos, you will be notified. Today we're going to talk about too invested. Too invested. Now, based upon how I'm going to go across with my subject matter, it's going to be from the perspective of when it's unhealthy. At a certain point, when it's unhealthy to be too invested. But briefly, I will talk about being too invested when it is healthy. So from the perspective of, if you're the type of person who has integrity, who has principle, moral value, and normally comes from a deep heart space and a great work ethic, it's great to be invested, especially when you get a return on your investment. I'm not saying that you should compromise yourself in regards to things that you are passionate about. And there's a thin line when it comes to a lot of things. So, if it's serving you for your greatest good, your well-being, and the overall the things that you get out of it, then great. You should stay invested in those things. But like I mentioned before, we're going to come from the perspective of when it perhaps becomes a little unhealthy, when you're too invested. Sometimes in life you have to, when things start pulling at you too much and you're overextending yourself in different areas and there is no return, and you are getting fatigued, and you are getting stressed, and perhaps you're getting pushed back, and you aren't making the progress that you necessarily want to make. You're too invested at this point now. Even if it started off on the right track and it was healthy. At some point, you can become too invested in something that is no longer serving you. Now it is being more of a detriment to you. Perhaps it may be making you ill. Someone may be making you ill. Something. Or it may be a plethora of different variables that are now eating away at you. You become too invested. I think it's wise that we're mindful of our energy, because truly that is one of our most valuable commodities, is energy and time. You don't get time back. They say there's two banks in this world. You get a money bank and a time bank. Money comes and goes. You don't get time back. And all we do is exchange time for money, which is fueled by our energy. So energy is at the top of the list. So we have to be mindful of that commodity that we hold, which is energy, and where we invest our energy. So when we're invested in something, we definitely want a return on our investment. So when one becomes too invested and they're no longer getting a return, maybe time to pull out, maybe time to pull back. Especially if it's exterior. It's time to pour more back into yourself. pour more back into the things that you love to do that doesn't pertain to something that perhaps you were invested in before that is more exterior. And now it's like, oh, let me pour back into me. Let me put that energy and time back into myself because I'm being overextended at this point in time. And it's no longer healthy for my mindset. There was a song one time where they said, you got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them. There is a time for everything in life. There's a time to stop. There's a time to rest. There's a time to change your mind. There's a time to pull back. And there's nothing like the power of just using your mind, let alone changing your mind. So ask yourself, are you too invested? Are you too invested in something that is no longer serving you? That is taking more from you than it is giving to you? It's time to reinvest. It's time to put that energy and direct it in a new direction. And I'm always going to say that it's probably best that you direct it back to yourself. You cannot pour from an empty cup. Once you become overextended, you deplete yourself, and you're really no good for anything or anyone. So be mindful of what you're invested in at this point, and ask yourself if it is worth the time and the energy and the overall mental health that it's affecting in you. Despite how good your heart is, despite where, what it is that you're pouring into, if it no longer gives you the joy and the happiness that it may have once given you, then it's time to reconsider. Too invested. Pour back into yourself. Pour back into something that you know you're going to get a return from. Something that is going to give you life, not strip life from you. Something that is going to enhance your joy, not take joy from you. Something that is going to catapult your happiness and not decrease your happiness. Happiness is an inside job. So the minute that happiness starts to dissolve and you understand where it is dissolving, what areas, it's time to pour that into a new direction. Pour back into self. So as always, I just hope that this video adds value to you, and I hope that if you are an individual right now who's somewhere dealing with something and you are a little bit too invested and you realize it's time to pull back, that you do so. It'll probably be one of the greatest things you can do at that particular moment in time, especially, like I said, if it is taking away from you and it is no longer, it potentially may not have the same integrity that it once had, or those people, those particular values may not be as strong as they used to be, and now they're not really meeting, your standard. So reconsider. Invest in yourself. Pour that energy back into self. Build you up. Build up your desires, likes, and wants. And I guarantee you will see the fruits of your labor. Ask yourself, are you too invested? As always, once again, I hope that this adds value. Take care.